Get this trash out of here before she embarrasses us all. Victoria Ashford's voice cut through the Metropolitan Museum's morning silence like a blade. The young black woman in the simple dress stumbled backward as Victoria shoved her champagne glasses rattling on nearby tables. Preston immediately started filming his phone, capturing every angle of the humiliation. This is going straight to TikTok. Poor girl thinks she belongs here. Camilla snatched the invitation from the woman's hands, waving it above her head like a trophy. Look everyone, someone's playing dress up with a fake ticket. She ripped it in half. The pieces fluttered to the marble floor. Security guards moved closer as the Ashford family formed a circle, phones out, recording from every angle. 200 elite guests turned to watch the show. The young woman bent to collect the torn pieces, hands trembling, as laughter rippled through the crowd. "Ma'am, I need to verify your invitation status," Security Chief James Patterson said, approaching with visible reluctance. James, darling, the evidence is right there on the floor," Victoria announced to the growing crowd. "Clearly forged, probably printed at some Kinko's in Queens." Dr. Elizabeth Harper. The museum director checked her tablet nervously. "The Williams Foundation table. They're listed as our platinum sponsor with a $100,000 contribution." "Anyone can steal a foundation name," Preston interrupted, still filming. "Dad, didn't you handle corporate security at Goldman? Tell them about identity theft." Richard Ashford pushed through the crowd, phone buzzing incessantly. "What's this commotion? I have the Williams Tech signing at 9 sharp tomorrow. Our $750 million partnership depends on—" "Handle your business calls later." "Richard," Victoria snapped, "we're dealing with a social emergency." The young woman finally stood, torn invitation pieces carefully arranged in her palm. Her voice was steady, almost serene. "I understand there's been some confusion about my presence here tonight." "Confusion?" Camilla laughed into her phone. "Girl, there's no confusion. You don't belong here. This isn't a community center fundraiser." Preston's TikTok climbed past 50,000 views as he provided running commentary. "Sometimes reality hits hard, people. Not everyone gets to live the dream." Victoria stepped forward again, voice rising theatrically. "Everyone pay attention. We are constantly trained to identify security threats. This is a textbook case. A young woman using a fake ID to infiltrate restricted areas, possibly gathering sensitive information." The crowd pressed closer. Phone cameras glinted like predator eyes in the museum lighting. The young woman's phone buzzed insistently. The screen briefly visible showed "Dad, Marcus Williams," with 17 missed calls. She declined without speaking. "Even her phone calls are disruptive," Victoria declared. "This is exactly what I mean about appropriate behavior in civilized society." Security moved closer as the circle tightened around her like a designer-clad noose. What none of them knew was that Marcus Williams, the man whose calls they were watching her decline, was the same Marcus Williams whose partnership would save Ashford Industries from bankruptcy. The same Marcus Williams who was at that moment 3 minutes away from the museum. The young woman looked up at the crowd surrounding her phones, recording her every breath, and spoke 4 words that would change everything. "I think I'll call him back." "Hi, Dad? Yes, I'm still at the Met Museum." Zara's voice carried clearly across the marble hall. The crowd's chatter died instantly as 300 guests strained to hear the conversation. Victoria's triumphant smile flickered. Something in the young woman's tone, calm, authoritative, familiar, sent ice through her veins. "I'm here with Victoria Preston Richard and Camilla Ashford. They've been very educational tonight." Dr. Harper grabbed her tablet, frantically scrolling through donor files. Her fingers trembled as she cross-referenced names, sponsors, foundation records. Williams Foundation. Marcus Williams. CEO, Williams Tech Corporation. She looked up, horror dawning across her face. "Oh my God." Preston's TikTok captured the museum director's reaction in real time. His 85,000 viewers watched her transform from confusion to absolute terror. Richard Ashford's business mind made the connection first. His phone had buzzed 17 times tonight. Marcus Williams, Williams Tech CEO. The same Marcus Williams whose $750 million partnership would save Ashford Industries from bankruptcy. His face drained of color. Marcus Williams. The Marcus Williams. Judge Morrison pulled out her phone, quickly searching. Her voice carried across the crowd as she read aloud. Marcus Williams, CEO and founder, Williams Tech Corporation. Net worth $12.7 billion. Forbes Richest Americans list. Several socialites gasped audibly. Preston's phone shook in his hands as his TikTok audience exploded with comments. Wait, what? Is she serious? Marcus Williams has a daughter. This family is about to be destroyed. Zara continued her conversation, voice growing colder. Dad, they tore up our foundation's invitation, called it fake, said I was, what was the phrase, Preston, worthless trash that needed to be removed before I embarrassed everyone. Preston's blood drained from his face. His comment section shifted from mockery to shock. Camilla ended her Instagram live immediately, but 43,000 viewers had witnessed everything. Screenshots were already spreading across social media at viral velocity. Victoria grabbed Richard's arm nails, digging deep. Tell me this isn't happening. The $750 million joint venture we're signing tomorrow morning. Richard whispered, voice cracking. The deal that saves our entire empire. Dr. Harper's voice shook with panic. Ms. Williams, Zara Williams, I am so deeply, profoundly sorry. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Actually, Dr. Harper, there's been no misunderstanding at all. Zara's voice remained perfectly calm. Everyone here has seen exactly who the Ashford family really is when they think nobody important is watching. The crowd's phones continued recording, but the energy had completely shifted. What moments before had been entertainment was now becoming evidence. Patterson backed away, hand moving instinctively to his radio. Ma'am, Miss Williams, I had absolutely no idea. I was just following orders. And of course you didn't, Officer Patterson. That was precisely the point of tonight, to see how people treat others when they think there are no consequences. Zara held up the torn invitation pieces. This is what the Ashford family thinks of a $100,000 charity donation, of the foundation that funds arts education for underprivileged children across New York. Victoria's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Preston desperately tried to end his TikTok stream, but his panicked fingers fumbled with the controls. His 94,000 viewers watched him fall apart in real time. Dad! Zara continued into her phone. Should I mention that Preston has been filming this entire incident for TikTok? That Camilla live-streamed my humiliation to over 40,000 followers? That Victoria announced to 200 of New York's elite that I was trash who needed to be removed from civilized society? Richard stepped forward desperately. Miss Williams, Zara, please, there's been a terrible mistake. My family had absolutely no idea who you were. No idea about what, Mr. Ashford? No idea that black people can afford charity gala tickets. No idea that someone in a Target dress might have generational wealth. Or no idea that your actions have consequences beyond your little social bubble. The power dynamic had completely reversed. The Ashford family now stood surrounded by cameras documenting their public destruction. Dr. Sarah Washington stepped forward. As a medical professional and witness to everything that happened here tonight, I can testify that this was systematic discrimination. Deliberate, calculated, cruel. Judge Morrison nodded grimly. I've presided over enough discrimination cases to recognize textbook racial profiling when I witness it firsthand. Zara's phone conversation continued audible to everyone. Dad, they want to remove me from the charity gala that our foundation sponsors, the museum where we donated $2.8 million last year alone. Victoria finally found her voice barely more than a whisper. Please, your father, our companies. This partnership means everything to us. Victoria, Zara said quietly, ending her call and pocketing her phone. You just spent 37 minutes telling 200 people that I was worthless trash who didn't belong in civilized society. You filmed it. You broadcast it live. You made my humiliation into entertainment. She gestured to the crowd of phones still recording. What exactly did you think was going to happen when the truth came out? Richard's phone rang the sound, cutting through silence like a knife. Marcus Williams. Urgent. With trembling fingers, he answered. Marcus, I can explain everything. The voice that came through the speaker was ice cold, audible to everyone in the sudden quiet. Richard, I'm 3 minutes away from the museum. Don't you dare move. 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. The museum's marble hall had transformed into a corporate courtroom with 200 elite witnesses holding their phones like evidence collectors. The massive doors opened with an echo that silenced every whisper. Marcus Williams entered like a force of nature, 6'2", impeccably dressed in charcoal. Tom Ford flanked by assistants and legal counsel. His presence commanded immediate attention. Conversations died mid-sentence. Phones lowered as the crowd recognized power walking into the room. Good evening, Marcus said, his voice carrying easily across the hall. His eyes swept the crowd before settling on his daughter. Zara, are you all right? She nodded once. I'm fine, Dad. Just educated. Marcus's gaze shifted to the Ashford family, who had unconsciously huddled behind Richard as if he could shield them from the approaching storm. Richard, I received an interesting phone call from my daughter. Something about your family's approach to community relations. Dr. Harper rushed forward, tablet in hand, professional composure shattered. Mr. Williams, I am mortified by what happened here tonight. The museum takes full responsibility. Marcus held up one hand, stopping her mid-sentence. Dr. Harper, you're not responsible for the Ashford family's behavior, but you are responsible for how your institution responds to it. He turned back to Richard, who was visibly sweating despite the museum's climate control. Let's discuss some numbers, shall we? Ashford Industries' current debt load. $1.2 billion. Your stock price down 73% this year. Your quarterly losses. $89 million. Richard's face went gray. These were private financial details, not public knowledge. Without our partnership. Marcus continued, your company has approximately 67 days before bankruptcy. With it, you projected a return to profitability within 18 months. He paused, letting the financial reality sink in. Past tense Richard, projected. Marcus's assistant stepped forward, tablet ready. Sir, shall I read the social media documentation? Please. Her voice was clinical professional. Preston Ashford's TikTok account. 4 videos posted tonight. Combined viewership 347,000 and climbing. Content includes calling Ms. Williams trash delusional and suggesting she doesn't belong in civilized society. Preston tried to interrupt. Camilla Ashford's Instagram livestream. Broadcast to 43,000 viewers. Duration 37 minutes. Content includes mockery of Ms. Williams's appearance, accusations of gate crashing, and encouragement of public humiliation. Camilla's face was ash-colored. Her influencer career was evaporating as brand partnerships received thousands of angry messages. Victoria Ashford. The assistant concluded, documented making physical contact with Ms. Williams, destroying her invitation, and calling for security to remove the trash. Victoria finally found her voice. Marcus, please. I made a terrible mistake. I had no idea who Zara was. Stop! Marcus's voice cut like ice. Victoria, you didn't mistake my daughter's identity. You saw a young black woman in a simple dress and decided she didn't deserve basic human dignity. He gestured to the crowd. You made that decision in front of 200 witnesses. You filmed it. You broadcast it. You made it entertaining. Dr. Washington stepped forward. Mr. Williams, I witnessed the entire incident. Your daughter handled herself with remarkable grace under circumstances that were inexcusable. Judge Morrison nodded. As someone who's presided over discrimination cases, what I witnessed tonight was textbook harassment based on racial assumptions. Marcus's legal counsel spoke up. We have 37 separate video recordings of tonight's incident from 17 different angles. The documentation is comprehensive. Richard desperately tried to salvage something. Marcus, surely this personal matter shouldn't affect our business relationship. Our companies. Our companies. Marcus's eyebrows rose. Richard, my company partners exclusively with organizations that share our values. Tonight, your family demonstrated exactly what values you prioritize. He turned to address the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, you've all witnessed something remarkable tonight. A family willing to publicly humiliate a young woman for entertainment. A family that sees charity events as opportunities to enforce social hierarchies. His voice grew colder. The question is, what kind of business culture do you think that family creates? How do they treat employees who don't look like them? Customers who don't dress like them? Communities that don't share their privilege? Preston's phone exploded with notifications. His TikTok comment section had become a nightmare. Your family is disgusting. This is what racism looks like. Hope your company goes bankrupt. Marcus pulled out his phone. Richard, I'm going to make a conference call. My board of directors is waiting. He dialed, putting the call on speaker. Gentlemen, I'm at the Met Museum with the Ashford family. You've all received the video documentation of tonight's incident. A voice came through clearly. Marcus, we've reviewed the materials. The board's position is unanimous. Another board member. The partnership agreement contained explicit clauses about corporate values alignment. This appears to be a clear violation. Richard's voice cracked. Please, our employees. Thousands of jobs depend on this partnership. Richard. Marcus said quietly. You should have thought about your employees before you allowed your family to publicly humiliate mine. Zara spoke for the first time since her father's arrival. Dad, I'd like to suggest something. All eyes turned to her. The crowd leaned forward. Phones capturing every word. The Ashford family has shown us who they are, but they could also show us who they're willing to become. Victoria looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. Complete public accountability. Zara continued. Public apologies to everyone who witnessed tonight's events. Mandatory bias training for the entire Ashford Industries board. A $10 million fund for organizations fighting discrimination. And quarterly diversity audits by an independent firm. She paused, her voice growing stronger. If they're willing to do the work, real work, not just damage control, then maybe they deserve a chance to prove they can change. Marcus studied his daughter's face. And if they're not willing, then they'll have 67 days to explain to their employees why their jobs disappeared because the executives couldn't treat a black woman with basic respect at a charity gala. The silence stretched for 30 seconds. Richard looked at his family, then at the phones still recording, then at the financial ruin awaiting them. Finally, he nodded. We accept all conditions. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text. He glanced at it, then looked up. The board meeting has been postponed until tomorrow at 10 a.m. You have 18 hours to begin demonstrating that your acceptance isn't just words. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Richard. The partnership terms have changed. It's now a probationary agreement subject to quarterly review based on your family's demonstrated commitment to change. As Marcus and Zara walked toward the exit, Preston's TikTok captured their departure. The comment section was unanimous. Legendary. Justice served. Best plot twist ever. They chose the right response. 6 months later, the Metropolitan Museum's annual report told a remarkable story. The same marble hall where Zara Williams faced public humiliation now hosted the Williams Ashford Corporate Responsibility Summit, drawing 300 business leaders, diversity consultants, and civil rights advocates. Dr. Elizabeth Harper stood at the podium, her voice carrying new confidence. 6 months ago, this museum witnessed an incident that could have destroyed lives and companies. Instead, it became a catalyst for unprecedented change. In the front row, the Ashford family sat with markedly different postures. Victoria wore a simple navy dress, no diamonds, no designer labels, taking careful notes as speakers discussed unconscious bias. Preston had traded his TikTok fame for genuine advocacy, his phone now recording testimonials from scholarship recipients. Camilla's Instagram had transformed from luxury lifestyle content to educational posts about privilege and accountability. Richard Ashford approached the microphone, hands steady, but voice carrying the weight of hard-learned lessons. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to share some numbers with you. Not financial projections or market analyses, but human impact data. He clicked his first slide. Ashford Industries diversity statistics from 6 months ago. 3% Black employees in leadership roles. 12% women in executive positions, 0 minority-owned suppliers in our top vendor tier. The crowd listened intently as he continued. Today's numbers: 31% minority leadership, 47% women executives, 35% of our supply chain contracts with minority-owned businesses. Dr. Angela Rodriguez, Ashford Industries' new Chief Diversity Officer and former Williams Tech executive, joined Richard at the podium. These changes weren't just policy updates, they required complete cultural transformation. She gestured to a large screen displaying employee testimonials. Marcus Johnson promoted from warehouse supervisor to regional operations manager. Maria Santos, whose innovative logistics proposal saved the company $2.3 million annually. Dr. James Brooks, whose R&D team just secured our most profitable patent in 5 years. The audience saw faces that reflected America's diversity, employees who had been overlooked, undervalued, or completely excluded under the old system. Victoria rose from her seat, approaching the microphone with visible nervousness. The same woman who had commanded the room 6 months ago with cruel confidence now spoke with genuine humility. I want to address the elephant in the room. 6 months ago, I publicly humiliated a young woman based on nothing but racist assumptions. I destroyed her invitation, called her trash, and tried to have her removed from an event her family sponsored. Her voice strengthened as she continued. I've spent these months in intensive bias, training, volunteering in Harlem community centers, and most importantly, listening to people I had spent 50 years ignoring. She clicked to a photo of herself serving meals at a community kitchen. This is Sarah Martinez, age 67, former hotel housekeeper. She taught me that dignity isn't determined by designer labels. This is Michael Williams, age 34, software engineer. He helped me understand that intelligence doesn't correlate with zip codes or skin color. Preston stepped forward, his transformation perhaps the most dramatic. The young man who had filmed Zara's humiliation for TikTok Entertainment now spoke with quiet authority. My videos from that night have been viewed over 2.8 million times across platforms. Initially, I was mortified, but then I realized, good. Let people see what privilege and prejudice look like when they think nobody important is watching. He showed his phone screen to the crowd. This is my new TikTok content. Last week, explaining implicit bias to Gen Z audiences. 847,000 views. The week before, interviewing HBCU students about career barriers. 1.2 million views. The comment sections he displayed showed a remarkable shift. This is real education. Using his platform for good now. Redemption arc complete. Camilla's transformation was equally profound. I lost 89,000 followers initially, but I gained something more valuable, a community of people committed to real change. My Privilege Check series reaches 200,000 people monthly with content about recognizing and dismantling systemic advantages. She showed screenshots of her recent posts, partnerships with civil rights organizations, fundraisers for educational nonprofits, honest discussions about wealth inequality. Marcus Williams took the stage, his presence still commanding, but warmer than that night 6 months ago. The question everyone asks is, why did we give them a second chance? Why not simply destroy them and move on? He paused, scanning the audience. Because destruction is easy, transformation is hard, and transformation creates lasting change that benefits everyone. The screen behind him displayed financial data. The Williams-Ashford partnership has generated $1.2 billion in revenue this year. But more importantly, it's created 2,407 new jobs, with 67% going to candidates from underrepresented communities. Dr. Washington, who had witnessed the original incident, stood to speak. As someone who initially wanted to leave that night, I'm grateful I stayed to see what accountability and action look like. She gestured to a display board showing concrete outcomes. The Ashford Family Foundation has donated $15 million to HBCU scholarships, minority business incubators, and criminal justice reform organizations. But beyond the money, they've donated their time, their platform, and their willingness to be uncomfortable while learning. Judge Morrison added her perspective. In 30 years on the bench, I've seen how discrimination cases usually end, with legal settlements and no real change. This represents something different. Voluntary, comprehensive, sustained transformation. The summit's most powerful moment came when Zara herself took the stage. Now 25, serving as Williams Tech's Vice President of Corporate Social Impact, she commanded the room with quiet authority. 6 months ago, I stood in this same space being called trash, having my invitation torn up, facing security guards who wanted to remove me from a charity event my family sponsored. She gestured to the audience. Today, this room is full of executives who've implemented bias training, entrepreneurs who've changed their hiring practices, and young people who found the courage to speak up when they witness injustice. Her voice grew stronger. The Ashford family's behavior that night was inexcusable, but their response afterward has been extraordinary. Real change requires both accountability for past harm and commitment to future growth. She clicked to her final slide photos of scholarship recipients, promoted employees, new diversity initiatives spreading across corporate America. 23. Fortune 500 companies have adopted similar accountability protocols. 17 universities now require implicit bias training for all students. 8 states have passed legislation based on what they witnessed here. The room erupted in applause as Zara concluded. That night, the Ashford family showed us the worst of who they were. These past 6 months, they've shown us the best of who they can become. Victoria approached the microphone one final time. I can't undo what I did that night, but I can spend the rest of my life ensuring it never happens again. Not by me, not by my family, and not in any organization we influence. The summit concluded with a commitment ceremony. 47 companies signed pledges to implement comprehensive diversity programs. The Metropolitan Accord became a template for corporate accountability nationwide. As the crowd dispersed, Preston's final TikTok of the day showed him shaking hands with scholarship recipients. His caption, simple: growth is possible, accountability works, change is real. 2 years later, Zara Williams stood before the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, addressing delegates from 193 countries. At 27, she had become the youngest person ever to deliver the keynote address on corporate accountability and social justice. 2 years ago, I was publicly humiliated at a charity gala by people who judged me solely on my appearance. Today, that incident has sparked a global movement that's transformed how businesses approach diversity, equity, and inclusion. The massive screen behind her displayed staggering statistics. The Metropolitan model had been adopted by 1,247 companies worldwide. Corporate discrimination complaints had decreased by 34% in participating organizations. Minority hiring and leadership roles had increased by 89%. But numbers tell only part of the story. The real impact lives in the individual lives, change the barriers removed, the voices finally heard. Have you witnessed discrimination in your workplace community or social circles? Share your story in the comments below. Your voice matters in this ongoing conversation about dignity and justice. Tag 3 people who exemplify inclusive leadership and tell them why their example inspires you. Change spreads through networks of courage and accountability. Subscribe to these stories for more inspiring accounts of resilience, transformation, and the power of choosing dignity over revenge. Remember, true power isn't the ability to humiliate others. It's the wisdom to transform moments of crisis into opportunities for growth, understanding, and lasting positive change. Sometimes the most important deals aren't measured in dollars. They're measured in the dignity we preserve, the justice we create, and the future we build together.